Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. This is a show where we review everything from Attack of the 50-Foot Woman to the latest, greatest craptastic Donald Sutherland movie. I'm Jonathan Charney. He's James Stevens. And their Carrot Top lookalike in the lower left-hand corner is Brian Preston. This week we reviewed the movie Aliens with Sigourney Weaver and Tom Skerritt. This is the original movie made in 1979. And before we start, James wanted to preference this week's review.
Okay, I just had a couple things that I wanted to bring up. That this is a sci-fi / fantasy movie, and there's a couple things that we need to be asking ourselves as we watch these movies, and I wanted to kind of throw this out to you guys and see what you guys kind of thought. First of all, the first question that I think is important that we ask when we're looking at a sci-fi movie is how believable is this movie going to be? And not in the sense of that it could actually happen in our own world, but believability in the world or universe or reality they're introducing us to. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, can we actually see ourselves being a part of this universe or world or situation that they're bringing us into? And the last one is, would we even want to be a part of it? Because, I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, Blade Runner, I don't want any part of that damn universe. So, sure. I mean, that's kind of the things that we need to take into when we are watching a movie such as Alien. Let's even throw in the really most famous one now of like Lord of the Rings,
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet. These types of movies, we actually need to think to ourselves, if we're actually going to take this movie seriously, do we even want to be a part of this movie or reality that they're bringing us into?
Right.
And that's kind of what I wanted to preface as we actually stepped into as a show of getting into a fantasy world or a world that's supposed to be taking place in future. Because that's what this is. This isn't so much a fantasy, but a future world.
No, I'll agree with that. I think that's a good thing to think about.
I think these are a couple things that we need to bring up as we bring our points in is, are we really going to take this movie in the serious factor that there actually could be aliens that are taking over human bodies as basically percolators to pop out of? So,
right.
You know.
Do you want to explain to the audience what a percolator is?
Yeah, the below 63 audience.
Come on, we all got to be on an SSI at some point.
Everybody's making French coffee all over the place these days. I'm sure it's making a comeback.
French press all the way.
Man.
So to tell you guys what the movie Aliens is about, since some of you may or may not have seen it.
Alien.
Aliens. Yeah, you're right.
Ambiguous.
Yeah.
I said, and James was being kind of ambiguous. So yeah, please explain.
Yeah, the movie Alien with Sigourney Weaver and Tom Skerritt. It's about a mining ship on their way to Earth, find some planet that's giving off some sort of SOS signal, and they go down there for some reason to detect what this alien signal is.
It's in their protocol. They have to go and search.
Yeah, if there's any life form, they have to go look and see what the heck it is.
They have this weird AI called Mother, which isn't never really present, and the only place apparently you can talk to Mother is in her room.
Yeah, it's shades of Psycho.
Yeah. My part of this is
that's a good point. I didn't even think of that one, but you're right. That is good.
My first thing is parts of the movie do not age well at all.
No.
That is true.
Other parts of this movie I think age amazingly. The exterior shots, the planets,
unbelievable. Right.
Yeah, the planetary effects are amazing.
Yeah,
and this is 33 years looking back. Literally.
Right.
I do think also even most of the interior I think works really well. I think the way they shot some of it looks a little odd nowadays, reflecting on it. The weirdest thing is the Unix / DOS ANSI graphics they use.
Yeah. It's everything's Unix.
Yeah, well, and DOS. I mean, there was DOS setups, and you're looking at binary code.
1979.
Yeah, but you were also reading binary code. She was translating a message in binary.
Unix. I mean, the microprocessor, I think in 79 might only have been 4 years old.
Yeah.
So as far as the tech, I thought a little bit of it was kind of well thought out, and some of it was still kind of just like, okay, we're just gonna kind of use the modern day tech, but it's those kind of things that don't age well.
They were,
when I'm hearing Xerox, sound effects, which is really, I think one of the things I thought like you were saying, didn't exactly hold up as well as some of the other things.
They were definitely shooting for the moon on some of the effects.
No. The sound editing in general threw me off really, really bad. I mean, maybe I was watching an unremastered copy or something like that. I'm sure that they've digitally remastered all the sounds since then, but still, just sort of the choice of all the analog sound effects and things like that.
True.
Did take me out a little bit, but basically you got bad sound effects, overacting, and kind of a slow draw of a movie. So I was trying to figure out, is it really fucked up that I really love this movie? Because I really do. But is it just that somebody figured out how to really do a slow burn on like the entire first act and a half of a movie, and then just have one thing basically to keep you until the like absolute end almost?
See,
it's rare that a movie does that for me.
My thing is, I wouldn't call this a slow draw, at least not for today's movies. Because if you look at Drive, where the entire movie is basically a build-up.
Yeah, not really. That movie is basically just kind of bullshit that had sort of little action scenes threw in and tried to sell one loving in the 80s or something like that.
I'd agree with you on that, but the thing that I want to bring up is actually the acting was pretty good for a sci-fi fantasy movie. And usually sci-fi fantasy movies are driven by effects and action. This
or
movie,
they're
not
driven
so
by
much.
nerds who have to find non-actor people to play their well-written material.
True, and actually, which was kind of a little bit surprising, is the fact that, I mean, they actually went out and picked some actually good actors. I mean, Tom Skerritt, for one, which is John. I made John mention in the beginning.
Dallas.
You also have John Hurt. This guy's even got a really big role thing too. I mean, he's in the Tinker Tailor Spy, V for Vendetta, Hellboy. The one that really blew me away was the guy who played Brett, Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton.
That guy, I mean, even before this movie, he had an amazing resume.
No, he's done a ton of character work. He's one of those people that you're just, that guy.
Yeah, Gunsmoke.
He's always been the guy that you never knew, but has always been in the movie, and you're just like, I recognize that dude somewhere. Why do I know him? I mean, he's been in a ton of movies that everybody knows, everybody's seen. They just can't place what movie they've seen.
And then you even have Ian Holm and Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't.
It was Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton that were the mechanics, weren't they?
Yeah.
I
mean, these guys are really fantastic actors, so which is kind of surprising to look back. And I mean, it's been probably almost 20 plus, maybe 15 to 20 years since I've actually watched Alien.
Sure.
I've seen the other ones after that, as they came out, but it's been a long time since I watched Alien. Then I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, these are really great actors. So that's what was a little bit interesting, is seeing that the fact that there were so many good actors in this movie, and that it was actually pretty good. I mean, the lines weren't that interesting or anything like that, but they actually did a pretty good job.
Maybe that's why I thought it was overacted, is because
I think the thing
I'll blame it on the writing, because the screenplay wasn't exactly the most insanely thought out. It was a lot of kind of tech dialogue and a lot of seemed like a lot of forced like the human interaction things that were going on.
Yeah,
but it was just that the actors were too good to say those lines. I think it was.
Yeah, I think that was it too. But I think one of the things that might be bugging you now, and it was one of the things that I decided early on in this movie not to do, which is a total hard thing for me, is I couldn't pick this movie apart from them breaking the horror movie rules. And I think that's what you might be doing, is you're kind of like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing something stupid?
Not necessarily the choices, because that I think is one of those, like you said, it's that horror movie classic, like, what do you do? I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be,
the reason why I stopped,
I don't want to pick them apart in that way.
The reason why I stopped is because this movie was basically before the horror movie rule book was written.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
How many horror movies were really before this? I mean, Freddy, Jason, all those guys were, around the same time, or
true. I guess
after.
Once for us that are classics, that are classic horror.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think part of the problem though is there wasn't the buildup of horror scenes that we traditionally see. That some of the scenes in most modern horror movies are so built up, so tense, that when you have a movie that's 33 years old, the buildup isn't there. I mean, this today I would not call a horror movie. If this same exact movie was released today, I'd call it
thriller.
Exactly.
I'd call it soft suspense action.
Yeah.
That's really what I would place it as. I mean, when you got movies like The Ring and other movies that are just ridiculously built up, and they just end up failing in the long run.
Okay.
I will say some of the things that I thought were funny, like their spacesuit backpacks. Don't they look like proton packs from the Ghostbusters?
Little bit. But at the same time, I was looking at them like that was. It was almost shades of like the Armageddon style spacesuits. Everybody was.
I was kind of thinking that too.
I loved the light up top and the fact they were blowing smoke.
Yeah, the fact that they weren't recirculating. That was a very interesting point. I mean,
somebody kind of paid attention to the random little details in space and things like that, as far as like the trajectory as they were coming into the planet, things like that.
I will say, I think that's what adds realism to this movie. Something I don't think we see in modern movies is the small details.
It's definitely not the aliens and things like that take me out. It's the things like, wait a minute, there's no atmosphere in space.
Yeah. Well, I really like, if you look at every other movie, the background has blinking lights. The panels have switches. There's a lot of realism to this movie, I think, in the backgrounds. The backgrounds aren't CG rendered, that don't have backgrounds. They're not static.
Well, you also got to remember, I mean, we had only been on the moon for 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, which is why I was actually, the other day I was looking up, I don't know, just because obviously, like, I'm 26. I wasn't alive when this movie came out, nor which I was the demographic for it, even if I was.
What? Your mom wouldn't drag you there in a little stroller?
In the onesie? She probably would have. She never really gave a crap what I watched. But
stop lying. We know you still wear that onesie.
For the boobs or Sigourney Weaver's non-ass. But other than that, no. So I'm watching this movie after the fact, and obviously I've seen it, as a younger kid, but you never can trust your taste when you're 13. So watching it again, I wasn't surprised that I still liked it because I remembered it pretty fondly. But it was like I said, the things that didn't necessarily hold up, the sound effects and things like that. But the amount of technology that they decided to use from the time period and then kind of go beyond that is a lot of what I happen to notice in these kind of sci-fi movies. Is like, where's the forward thinking? What kind of things are they adapting that exist at the time that move on? And I mean, there was a whole lot of stuff made with like computers and whatnot, and they weren't the first one. I think let's see.
2010 Space
When was
Odyssey?
Star Wars? It was 76, right?
Yeah.
The New Hope?
Yeah.
Or 77?
My dad actually knew a guy who programmed some of the gunnery scenes.
For which one?
And Star Wars. When they hopped on the cannons, there was that really weird 3 box. My dad knew the guy who programmed that.
Oh, nice. That must be interesting. Anyway,
well, 2001 A Space Odyssey was before then, too.
It was 1960 something, wasn't it?
68.
Right. And that was definitely out there. It introduced probably the genesis of Mother.
Well, I will say, I think some of this stuff, like the way it looks, the feel of it, I think carries on from the '60s Star Trek. The very tactile buttons and switches.
Everything's crazy tactile. Real shapely. Almost too many shapes.
Yeah, I mean, not like nowadays, where like the movie Star Trek by J.J. Abrams, everything's slick, everything's a touchscreen.
Right.
I personally think it adds a little more realism for today, but I think when you look into it 20, 33 years down the line, I think that doesn't have a realistic feel. My questions is, if you were in real life, if you were there, would you know what every single button does?
Hell no.
Because there's panels that have like 1,000 switches.
Well, I mean, the Android would, of course.
Yeah.
Mother?
No, the Android.
He was the...
Ash.
Oh,
Ash.
Ash.
Yeah.
Who was that? Ian Holm?
What?
The old guy?
Yeah, that was Tom Holm.
Yeah. I think it was Ian Holm. There's another guy who's been in a ton of characters.
Well, my thing is that there was a lot of things that were really cool about the ship, and like you said, there were some things that there was some forward thinking. Now, I was kind of a little bit put off by the fact that they had something that could kind of detect life signs on the ship, but not really.
Especially when it's pointed it towards people.
You can detect a signal from a couple hundred miles away and change course to go pick up a signal. But then you cannot detect life anywhere once you get there.
Yeah, or on your ship, really.
My favorite thing is that handheld detector. There's a scene where they point it right at somebody, and it doesn't go off. Yeah. But a few seconds later, they point it and they find a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, I was going to rename this movie Alien, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Let the Cat Try to Kill Everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
The other thing is, now, I understand that maybe futuristic in the world, we're going to lose all our guns and the liberals are going to take over the world and strip us of all our rights and everything like that. But really, you go on a spaceship and all you have for a weapon is like a monkey wrench and a flamethrower?
They probably had more weapons. I think they got around that with a crappy piece of dialogue explaining, well, not a really crappy piece of dialogue, but I think that was where the whole liquid acid blood thing came from, melting through the ship. They didn't want to have full damage. Yeah. So they probably couldn't shoot it like they wanted, so they had to make the flamethrowers,
I understand that, but I mean, really, you don't really got nothing. The other thing that was really annoying me, and I want to see if any of you guys picked this one out. This is a big question for me, is the fact of, were those watches on their wrist? And if they were, why do you have a watch on your wrist? If they were something else, why didn't you tell us?
See, I was always thinking they had to be some sort of communicator, but they never really tell you what they are.
I mean, are they life sign detectors that tell you your heart rate or something like that? But they really don't tell you. But they look like watches to me.
Oh, they're probably a calculator watch from the 70s. Honestly.
Right. Yeah.
But I noticed that, and I'm like, well, they never really explained that. I mean... And couldn't we just... Anyway, so, yeah, there's a couple things in there that were really kind of confusing with me.
What was the thing that confused you the most? Like, the number one top, like, what the hell moment?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay, my number one top what the hell moment is I am a cat lover. I like cats. I really do. But if I'm already on the escape pod... and I'm already programming the ship to self-destruct, I've got the escape pod prepared, and I hear my cat meow, I'm sorry, dude, you're dead. I am not getting back on the ship and saving your ass. I will open the door and say, here, kitty, 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 you got 2 minutes. You don't show up, I'm closing the door, I'm taking off.
Right. You know what I'm going to do when I go try to find the cat if I am that stupid? I'm going to shut the fucking door behind me.
Yeah, exactly. That too.
No, what's going to happen is mother's going to decide you're not worth keeping.
Or the fact...
Right, yeah, exactly. Natural selection.
You just brought up another point. If I bring a guy who's got some creature attached to his face, and all of a sudden I hear, hey, let's go back and check on him. Oh, you guys got to look at this. And I notice that the dude's thing on his face is no longer there.
Right,
the first thing I'm going to do when I get in the doorway is look up. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to wait 3 minutes and then all of a sudden look up like, oh shit, I forgot to look behind me.
Yeah, you're going to do the oh shit, look up, look down, look at every direction.
I am going to look.
Yeah, clear the room.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to turn the freaking lights on.
Well, that's after you get in and shut the door so you make sure it doesn't escape.
Yeah, that was the other thing. So anyway, okay, your moment of what the hell, unless I've already covered it.
Well, that was actually a lot of it. But my one of the things that I just thought was weird is that tripod winch thing they used to lower themselves into the hold.
Oh yeah.
Where did that come from? Because if you notice, they didn't bring any sort of. They said they walked. There wasn't any. They didn't carry anything, and there wasn't a vehicle.
I don't know. Maybe it was part of their suit. I don't know.
That's movie magic.
Exactly. It was a set guy who was very nice and built a winch for him to lower the guy down.
Yeah, and it was that, and the fact that they let the alien on board. I mean, I know that's kind of the horror 101, but I would have just said, you know what, no, thank you. I would have said no to the guy because there's no chance you're going to get some guy in the room with this giant unknown thing stuck on his visor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was a couple things in there, but like I said, I mean, this movie was basically before really anybody was like, you're being stupid. That's kind of where it comes from. I mean, this is before that.
Yeah, before the horror movie, like, don't go in that door, you asshole.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, didn't you see the movie from like 6 months ago where the guy went down that door and died?
So what about you, Ryan? Was there any particular moment that stood out to you that you like?
Sorry. I don't know. Maybe other than what's with the cat thing? Like, you guys didn't remember the cat's name until like you happen to see it, and then
it's your favorite cat in the world, and you must save it.
The scene where Yaphet Kotto's trying to shoot the alien, and he, for some reason, doesn't think that he has a clear shot, but it's 9 feet tall, and she's 5.5 feet tall, if that.
Yeah, you think you could aim for the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
What I said.
Suppressive fire. Yeah, that's all.
Exactly.
I'm saying.
That's what I said to
Get her out of
John.
there.
Right at that moment is, that's when you just fire and hope for the best.
Well, they were probably worried that all the KY the alien was smeared with would set on fire.
Actually, I think that was water. I really do think that was water that they just started dripping down the alien.
It was
face.
lube. I watched one of the special features on the disc that I own.
It was literally lube?
It was lube, like a ton of it. Just lubed the suit up.
Huh.
Astroglide.
Yeah, which I bet it's still slimy after 33 years.
Actually, I do have one.
Just at the comic book convention, seeing a life-size version of the alien. That thing is fun to stand next to.
Yeah, I did actually have a moment that I actually did write "holy shit" on my paper.
Seriously?
Just for no reason?
No, I have a reason for writing "holy shit." It was holy shit blowing up the ship 3 times seems a bit excessive, even for Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the mini cloud, the giant cloud.
Artistic choice, but what I have a practical question about is, and maybe I can count this as my oh shit moment. Okay, self-destruct. I can buy that. I can't. I mean, it's kind of weird that a ship would actually have like let's blow up the ship because then you think you have to pack explosives. Okay, but let's say for the sake of argument that you do, and you pack the explosive. What asshole packed the nuclear bomb?
I know.
Well, I like the way you actually have to activate it. Hit 2 gigantic.
Oh man.
4.
Oh yeah. Well, no. There's those 2 gigantic levers, and then you have these 4 metal.
Screw the spark plugs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, spark plugs. That's what they look like.
Pull the things up, open, hit the button, and then shoot.
Okay, now was it me or did she do the 5-minute countdown? And then Sigourney Weaver decided to go around and actually clear the ship. She had a minute.
That was at least a 30-minute scene.
Yeah, she had a minute to where she actually went back and got onto the life pod. And then Mother did a 30-second countdown during that point. And then added another minute and a half. Was that me? Or did that actually happen?
That happened.
I don't know. You know what, man? That's the one thing that always bugs me about
self-destruct.
The way that they perceive time, or the way that they think we perceive time as viewers. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell when you guys are skipping around and when you guys are just trying to make 30 seconds, into 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So what to you was your favorite scene? Because my favorite scene, still to this day, because I think it holds up, is the part when he's in the hold where all those alien eggs are. And you have that laser effect with the smoke.
Oh.
That to me
you
is...
mean the flashlight effect over the smoke?
Yeah, well, flashlight or laser, it's still, to me, the coolest effect. I still think that's the one effect that holds up very well, I think.
Right. I still love that entire scene really has got to be like my favorite scene, that whole little exploration type of thing when they're going down and they see the one big, huge guy in the gun.
Yeah.
Like a big plasma cannon or something, shit like that. So you kind of get the idea like, oh, wow, something bad happened here. It really it really sold the whole feel and the whole like anticipation of like there's something that's going on, and then it's almost a slight relief and a weird kind of, okay, now what, with the tiny little creature kind of attaching himself to the guy's face. And so it definitely, keeps you on your toes. I mean, if you haven't seen it before, it's one of those that you're not going to get bored by.
So what about you, James?
Well, for me, I think the scene that I liked the most, had to have been them approaching the planet, because I think that whatever Ridley Scott did to create that scene even holds up after 33 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, they're approaching this, and you got one planet with a ring around it, a couple other planets.
Right.
You know, just this whole, that there's a whole nother galaxy or, you know, area out there that looks as cool as that.
Right. But
it really holds up to this day.
I remember thinking almost how simplified and kind of just like empty he was able to make it feel too.
Exactly. I mean, there was like
really
something bad has happened here.
Right, and he
that's kind of the feel that he was giving you.
Really alone kind of feeling.
Yeah. So I think that was actually probably my favorite scene, especially seeing it now and understanding how much of CGI we throw in. And I mean, there really was none of that back then.
Yeah,
that was all handheld skill.
Ridley Scott, I think, might be the master of practical effects still.
That's one of the reasons why everybody, a big fan of Blade Runner. If you actually go back and look how they did a lot of the effects. This was old school physical camera tricks. I mean, this unlike today where everything's done really fast and very furious.
Well, I agree. I dislike Blade Runner a lot.
I agree.
But on
personally.
the fact of the skill it took to create that.
The feel of the movie is very good.
Right. The feel of the movie was unreal.
Yeah, the feel of the movie was unreal, but the actual movie I don't like.
I will say, though, because we're coming up towards the end of the show, is one thing I noticed that I'm really looking forward to is the ship. That ship looks very similar to the one in Prometheus.
Oh, yeah, it does. It
really
does.
I couldn't be looking more forward to a movie, probably other than Dark Knight, is Prometheus. Oh man, I can't wait for that shit. That's
the first movie this season that I'm like, I can't wait to see. I was uber excited for Prometheus because I like Ridley Scott's sci-fi. I'm not a big fan of.
He's almost done no wrong by me at all. The amount of just good action movies that this dude makes is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was starting with Alien also.
It was. If you look at his repertoire, he really didn't do anything until Alien. And, and this was his 9th movie.
He didn't do anything until 1979, and then had spent the last 30 years just killing it. You know what I mean?
Really
just really, really going to town on making some good action shit.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
To say, I gave this movie a 3. My reason why I really like this movie, but there are a few things I don't think it aged well. I wouldn't call it guilty pleasure because this is generally a good movie.
Right. Yeah. No. This is one I recommend.
I don't give 4 or 5s out easily because for me they have to be something that not only can I rewatch a ton of times, but I sit back just going, wow, even if I've seen it a bunch of times. So to me, this is a very strong 3. It's almost a 4 for me personally. I think there's some things that age that might have gave it to me a little bit of it's not worth a 4. I mean, some of the scenes, some of the cuts are really sloppy on how the editing. Mainly when
I'd say there's only about 3 scenes that really stuck out for me that were bad cuts.
The main one to me that was super obvious was the one they went from the android head to the guy's head back to the android head.
One of the most obvious cuts.
Well, that cut was horrible, but the cut when she hit it, that was almost the redeeming cut of how she hit it, and it was back to that head, and it was very smooth transition right there.
Yeah, but did you just see the head that it went back to?
Holy shit. I know. Well, but I'm just saying that cut was better than the cut of where she was like trying to position it just right.
I mean, it's
something about that milk of magnesia blood thing that he had.
Actually,
going on
I think what that I think that was actually like a gelatin substance. So I was looking at how it hardened. It was either flour and water or gelatin.
I mean, it must have been a whole lot of water to a little bit of flour.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was going to say the other scene. I mean, it's also the way it cut was similar to the original Terminator.
Okay.
With that head look. But to me, this is a 3. This is a must see. If you haven't seen this movie, it's worth seeing. Because this is to me is Ridley Scott, at least in this movie, is a classic. This movie has
absolutely. He almost opens up the universe because the Aliens, I should say, and Alien 3 are both pretty decent movies, and like, I mean, there's almost a whole little crossover universe that they did with
Aliens vs. Predator.
Yeah, so it definitely is worth checking out.
So what about you, James? What's your rating?
I would actually give this movie a 3 on the fact that, like you said, I would like to give it a 4 because as far as what I'm concerned on these first initial questions, these questions that I brought up in the beginning, I think it actually did it very well. It gave you believability. It gave you introduction into the reality. It gave you those choices of whether or not you want to be part of it or not, things like that. And I think it did good on those points. The point of where I'm saying that I'm not going to give it that over that is the fact that, like you said, there are certain scenes that just don't hold up. And I mean, honestly, one of my biggest issues about this thing is when you're landing a ship, and I mean, it takes barely even like a foot of a drop and it falls apart. That ship must have been made in China or something.
It broke its little toe.
Exactly. I mean, it just is like, it barely did anything, and and the whole thing just kind of exploded.
The whole crew just jumped all over the ship out of some bad Star Trek episode.
Exactly. So that was kind of a little bit of a downside for me. The fact that the actual alien didn't really hold up to today's standards, that was a little bit disappointing. The fact that I am giving it a 3 is off of, like I said, the planetary effects. Those were really, really, really well done. A few things on the ship that were really well done in the acting in this movie. I think parts of it were overacted, like Ryan said.
I agree completely.
But a lot of these actors are really, 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 I'd say 4 to 5 star actors. And
sure.
That's saying something.
Definitely have had careers after the fact, that's for sure.
Exactly.
To hurt them.
So, I mean, on those points, I give it a 3. I do like the movie. Like, I'm gonna kind of not say it's not. I'm not a big fan of the movie or the series, but I do like the movie.
Well, I think I'll agree. The second one I enjoy. The third one, overall, I don't think the sequels hold up to the original.
Right.
But this one, even if you don't like any of them, the first one is worth seeing.
Yeah, especially if you're one of those morons who actually watch the Alien versus Predator movies.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow, this is actually pretty cool. Watch the originals. Watch the original Predator. Watch the original Alien, Aliens, Alien 2.
You know what? If you've watched any remake of any movie that's been made in the past 30 years, go back and watch the original. There was a reason somebody made it. There was a reason that somebody remade it. It's because it kicked ass.
And then there's a reason why somebody butchered it.
Don't go see all the things that are new. Go back and check out some of the old shit.
Exactly.
So what about yourself, Ryan? What do you give the movie?
I think this might be the one that we all universally agree on. It's just a 3. I mean, I think I might be a little closer to you. It's pretty close to a 4, but it's things like the sound effects and goddamn Xerox sound effects. And the slight overacting, but then it's redeemed by a bunch of parts, by just the likability of all the characters. I mean, it was such a big budget movie, and Ridley Scott, I think, kind of walks the line of this real nerd kind of filmmaker who wants to make these kind of real sort of heady movies, and then people just kind of like look at him like he's a Steven Spielberg, so they just kind of hand him a lot of money, and he's just like, okay. And he makes good movies, and
usually for under the budget,
kind of backs that up. And but he's one of the few people that makes movies like this that can get a huge budget like that to work with and make these kinds of things, worth wanting to see.
I think for me personally, this is the last kind of my last bit of it. I think one of the reasons this movie does so well is because it has a slow draw, but it's not overdone. I think that is
just when you're getting bored, there's something to.
I think that is a really rare thing in Hollywood, is when they have enough of a slow draw, and then boom, there it goes.
It's a lost art because they're making movies for basically stupid people with low attention spans.
Michael Bay.
Well, he's been doing it for a long time.
That's but overall, I like this movie. I mean, I give it a 3. James Stevens gives it a 3. Ryan Preston gives it a 3, and that's, for us all 3 to agree on a movie is a pretty rare thing, because we both have extremely different opinions on what is considered a good movie or not.
Sure.
Next week. Well, that movie just sucked.
Well, hey Ryan, can I do the intro on this one?
I want
to see his face. It's all me. Come on.
I will. Just was going to say,
right.
next week's movie is James Stevens' picks. So what's the movie you've picked for the next week, James?
All right. I'm actually kind of looking at Ryan's screen because I want to see his face on this one. This movie was made in 1990. It has two names. The original name that it went out under was called Dark Angel.
European release.
The European release. The American release.
Europe.
The American release is called I Come in Peace.
Okay.
All right.
So okay, a little quiz here. Who stars in this movie? It's one movie,
Right.
not to another.
I think you just said two names. It's two people who, at one point or another, were given names to go by. I think that's what he meant.
One guy is a certified genius, like almost MIT grad genius.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Do you know who it is?
You know who stars in I Come in Peace.
He stars. He stars.
When you go in pieces.
He stars in one of your all-time favorite guilty pleasure movies.
The Punisher.
Oh, right. Yeah. Lundgren. He's
Ding, 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 ding. Circle.
biomedical engineer. Was it?
Yep. Circle gets the square. That is correct.
Yeah.
Dolphy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for James Stevens, Brian Preston, and myself, Jonathan Charney, see you next week.
All right.
This episode of Old Guy Tech TV is brought to you by Ward's Automotive, specializing in Banks Power and Pack Brake, servicing your car or truck and specializing in diesel engines. Over 30 years of service, located in Diamond Springs, California. Give them a call at 530-626-5588.